I've also heard too, if you're struggling to figure out what do I value, to think back to, your last 3 to 5 really favorite moments of life, things that have happened that have just been your favorite memories. Where were you? What were you doing? What did you feel? How did you feel? And that can help guide you to some of those values as well.
Hey there, and welcome back to another episode of the Reshape Your Health podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Morgan Nolte, here with one of my very favorite guests. She's one of our health coaches for Zivli, Dr. Lydia Spirawk. Thank you for coming back on the show.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
Yes. For those of you who missed the previous episodes that I've done with Lydia, please check them out. They are so great. Two of my favorite were on the 4 nons. It's like non-attachment, non-resistance, non-reaction, non-judgment. I love doing mindset stuff with you because I feel like we can go so deep together. And it's just fun. It's fun to connect with you. For people that don't know how we connected, I used to work at Creighton University here in Omaha as the program coordinator for the geriatric residency program for physical therapy. And Lydia was one of the 2 geriatric residents at the time. So we got to work together very closely for a year, and then you moved away, and then we reconnected, just kind of serendipitously. Like, I was looking for a health coach, you were looking for a coaching position.
Yeah, the timing was perfect. The stars aligned.
I was so glad to have you as a member of our team. You would do such a great job with our members, and our membership opens up soon. So at the time when this episode is released, right now what we're doing is getting ready. So we have our blood sugar boot camp that's going to be coming out. It's going to be awesome. And if you're a pre-diabetic or type 2 diabetic and you really want to lower those blood sugars, please sign up for that boot camp. But more importantly, our 12-week program is coming up, and people can enroll here in just a few weeks. And we've been in this long enough to understand what holds people back from taking the actions that they need to take to improve their health. And I know that there are thousands of people that listen to this podcast, that watch my YouTube videos, that are taking in the information and they're not really acting on it yet, or they're not acting on it to their highest potential yet. And so I wanted to bring you on the show to just have some conversation around the biggest obstacles that we see people face when they're considering joining our Zivli program. Mm-hmm. And I think the first one that I wanted to dig into today, this is probably going to be a 2-part episode because there are a lot. There's a lot of excuses, there's a lot of justifications, a lot of limiting thoughts that we're going to dig into. And the first one is this deep-seated question of, like, do I have what it takes? Do I have what it takes? And that means, like, well, do I have what it takes to lose the weight, to lower the blood sugar? Do I really have what it takes to change my habits? And I think that this one stems from some past quote unquote failure. Like, they wouldn't be second guessing their ability if they didn't have an experience in the past of, like, not reaching a certain expectation they had for themselves. What are your thoughts on this one?
No, I agree with that. I think on the flip side as well, you would never ask yourself that question about something that you have succeeded upon over and over and over again, right? You never have to ask yourself, well, is this going to work out? Am I gonna win at this? I think you're absolutely right that an event or a circumstance or a belief from that event or circumstance can hold people back or make them think that they can't do it. They're not able to.
Yeah, what comes to my head is like, I've tried everything before. Mm-hmm. I've tried this, or I've tried that, and it didn't work for me.
Right.
And we're going to talk about that one a little bit later, but that's, I think, a sign that you might be wondering, like, do you have what it takes?
Yeah.
And I think this kind of, to me, it speaks to the fact that a lot of people limit themselves because of their current circumstances. I think if I had to, like, pinpoint what is it that holds people back from changing, it's they're letting their current circumstances affect them too much. Like what they actually see, what they hear, what they believe, what they think about themselves, their current amount of, quote unquote time that they have, their current financial resources. They're letting their current circumstances limit their future potential.
Yeah, almost like their current situation, they can't even conceptualize what that future would look like because they are so living in their current circumstances, right? It's like, how could I ever be that version of health when this is what my life looks like currently? How is it possible for me to get there?
They're not even saying that. They're saying, I can't do
that's
cut.
True.
Yeah. I'm like, well, I'd be happy if they're like,
Oh,
I'm like, how is a great question?
that's my coaching brain. I'm like, oh, I can't turn it off.
I like that. But I think if someone's sitting there right now and they're telling themselves like, oh, I would sign up and not do it anyways, or like I would sign up and not go through the program, and I just don't have the time, or all of these things are evidence that you're living from your current circumstances. And we cannot let fear hold us back from becoming the person that we want to be. My goodness, there has been so much fear that I've had to overcome in 3 areas of my life: a parent, a partner, and a business owner. I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you today if I let any fears get in my way. We have to confront those fears. We have to confront the fact that any limitation is just a limitation of thought. And we have the power to change our thoughts. We have the power to control our thoughts and to create. Like, we are creators. I think that's like what I want people to understand more than anything. Like, I believe in God. I believe that we are endowed with that same creative power that created us. And it's like, what are you leaving on the table? Like, what are you not creating in your life? What experiences, what relationships, what impact are you not creating in your life because of fear? Because of fear of the unknown, because of fear of what people are going to think about you, because of fear of being different. And so I know so many people that hold themselves back because they're afraid of that. And I'm like, so what? Like, name one successful person who didn't have to start when they were afraid, who didn't start like before they were ready. You have to start before you're ready. You have to do things scared. Otherwise, you're going to stay in your comfort zone, which I think really leads back to that conversation on attachments that we've had. Like, I think people are attached to their current circumstances, their current friendships, their current level of discourse with their partners around maybe their dietary choices. What other attachments do you think people have related to their current circumstances that really prevent them from taking the next step and investing in themselves?
I think control is one thing, because attachment to control.
Okay, walk me through that one more.
Because a lot of times when you're entering a different journey, whether it's health, whether you're marriage, school, parenthood, a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people really thrive on control and knowing what's going to be coming next and how it's going to be coming. And sometimes with any type of journey, like I said, health, life, whatever, we don't have that control. And I think it's more powerful to recognize that and know that you won't be in control. And that's what's going to allow you to kind of go forward. I myself have struggled with some control, instances in my life. And I often, if I start getting panicky, I play the what if game. Well, what if this happens? Or what if this doesn't work out? Or then what if this happens? And I've had to train my mind, especially when I can tell I'm starting to go down that path, to say, what if it all works out? You know what I mean? It's so easy for people to say, what if I can't lose the weight? What if it's a waste of money? What if I never get healthy? What if I never lower my blood sugar? But yet they never add in that sentence of like, well, what if it does all work out? Right? And I just think that is a very powerful question for people to reflect on when they start, thinking, do I have what it takes? Think, what if it all works out? What does life look like then?
I love thinking about that question, like, what do I have to lose? I know something it just hit me so hard one day when I heard you're already living the worst case scenario. And I think for me that hit home. I think if somebody has issues with their health, that may not be the case. Like things could get worse actually. But in the short term, like what do you have to lose?
Right.
Like you have the weight to lose, the high blood sugar to lose, the high blood pressure to lose. So yeah, if you're playing the what if game, like Lydia said, I would challenge you to argue the other way. Like, what if this does work? Like, what if I can do this? How would that change my life? How would that look different? And I think that goes to taking responsibility for your thoughts, which is one of our levels of expertise, I think, in the program is really helping people identify those limiting thoughts and taking personal responsibility. I didn't plan to talk about this today, Lydia, but such is life.
Right.
Justin and I were having lunch today, and I said, what do you think our family values are? If you had to pinpoint our family values, and I'm going to put you on the spot, and I want to hear, like, what are your and John's family values, if I had to tell you that?
I laugh because I hit John with these questions out of the blue all the time, and he is not he does not share my same love of these types of questions.
That's my one.
Right. He's like, I need to know the question ahead of time. I will think on it and I will get back to you. But let's see. If I had to pick my top, I would say for sure health. I would say family. I would say quality time is a really big one as well. Those are probably our three biggest.
Yeah, I like.
Yeah. I mean, we have others, but what did you guys say?
We said faith at the top.
Okay.
Like, I think our belief in God just kind of like trickles down into every single other value. Obeying, like following our beliefs in that regard. Family. And health was also on ours. And then we really toyed a lot with the next two. We couldn't quite put a word on it. We've said like relaxation in the past, but some other things that we came up with were intentional margin, which is like margin time, margin money, margin energy.
Sure.
Living under our means was one that I kind of threw out there, like living under our financial means, living under our energetic and our time means, so that we can enjoy like quality time together. Sure. But this does play into the podcast episode here because what we landed on was responsibility, response, ability. And the way that we kind of chose these values were, what do we put a high intention on naturally in our home? So like faith, family, health, responsibility. And we teach our children who are 6 and 4, like, you are responsible for how you think, you are responsible for how you feel, you are responsible for how you act. We want to be responsible stewards of our time, our attention, our energy, our finances, our gifts that we've been given. And so that was a big one. And that one was surprising, but I think that comes into play in this conversation when we're talking about people who may feel like their current circumstances get in the way of the future version of themselves that they know is waiting for them, that they know they can create. They know it's there. To me, that's not taking radical personal responsibility. Like, that's what that is to me. Yeah. And so whenever I hear someone blame an external person, place, situation in life, that's a really, really hard one for me because I know that they're giving their personal power away to something external. Yeah. And until you take personal, radical responsibility for your results and your actions and your thoughts and your emotions, you can't become that version, the next version of yourself, the next iteration. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on personal responsibility and the importance of like not being in a victim mindset, being external circumstances or people.
When you were going through all of that, it made me think to like symptom and root cause. Like that's all that was going through my head is, your external circumstances are your symptoms, but you've got to treat the internal circumstance, that's the root cause. And it doesn't matter everything that's around you that's happening if internally there's also this bigger block. It's like you might be blaming the time, the money, the energy, but really what's happening inwardly that's causing those symptoms.
Yeah. Do you think it comes back down? First off, I love that. I love your metaphors and analogies. I always appreciate them. Do you think it comes back to fear? Like if somebody isn't taking responsibility, is it because they have a fear of failure or a fear of success even?
Or both?
Both?
Yeah.
That was a long time ago when I talked about fear of failure and fear of success. But I think that whenever someone goes out to make a significant lifestyle change, they know it's going to have a ripple effect. They know that there's going to be attention that's drawn to them because of their success. They know relationships will change. They know boundaries will have to be set. And it's like, I think sometimes that subconscious mind just wants you to stay where you're at and stay comfortable. But unfortunately, often staying comfortable also means staying stuck. And we have to get outside of that comfort zone, and we have to be okay with being uncomfortable. I've told you before that book, Good Inside by Dr. Kennedy. And so I'm still kind of working my way through it. I don't necessarily agree with everything that she says, but there's some good insight in there. And one was we have to expand our tolerance of the learning zone. And so there's like a point in time where you don't know something, and then there's a point in time that you master something. And she said, in today's society of instant gratification and, automatic everything and AI, we have a reduced tolerance for this learning zone, which inherently has discomfort. So an intolerance of being uncomfortable is kind of what our society has come to. And I love that, because if we can learn to embrace discomfort, if we can learn to embrace growth and learning and being in the learning zone, not having all the answers, not being where we are, like where we want to be yet, but still be really cool and comfortable in this zone, because that means we're growing. Like that to me, I think is how you shift that perspective from like a fear of failure. Is I'm far more afraid of not reaching my potential than I am of failing. And that was really the litmus test that, like, when I started this business, I knew it was going to be an uphill battle. I knew it was going to be hard. I knew there was going to be a lot of sacrifice. I knew there was going to be a lot of resistance. But I said to myself, you're going to regret not trying more than you will hate failing if you do try. So I think that anybody listening, I hope they're really weighing that option of like, what's scarier to you? Like failing, like trying your best and failing. And what do you gain along the way? You gain wisdom, insight, understanding, learnings, experience. You're never failing. I always say like there's no failure after go. But I think it is a failure if you never start. And you let fear win. So anybody considering like joining, please reflect on that. And there is no failure after go. Like we just don't even allow that language in our in our realm.
It doesn't exist.
Now, I think that some people listening may be thinking like, I want to join, but it's just stressful. Like change is too stressful. There's already a lot on my plate right now, and this kind of goes into like I don't have time. It's not the right time. It's going to be an added something to my plate. What are your thoughts on that one?
I totally agree. That I've heard that a lot before. And I think we've talked about how, there's never the perfect time for change, right? When life is calm, it's never like, okay, this is the time where I'm going to embark on a massive endeavor, right? I think also knowing that I heard this the other day, how, if we can learn and be okay with knowing that life is always going to be filled with conflict. You are always going to have conflict coming your way, and becoming comfortable with that, instead of being fearful of, okay, I'm waiting for the next shoe to drop, but embracing that is life. And I think that can be applied to this, it's not the right time, or it's I'm stressed, life's crazy. It's like, well, that's also life. That might mean that you don't have the right systems in place, or you could have some other systems that can help you to manage that time so you aren't as stressed. But life is always going to be sending curveballs your way. Always. That's just life. And I think accepting that is powerful when you're looking to take that next step with your health.
Yeah, accepting, I think, is a really interesting word there. I was having a conversation with a family friend recently who's gone through some very difficult personal times and is just working on accepting life as is right now. And I said, well, I've heard, to the degree in which you can accept something is the degree in which you can change something. I think really accepting, again, I think that goes into taking responsibility. Thoughts on a situation goes so far. And when I was reflecting on this one, it's too stressful to change. It's too stressful to change my diet. It's too stressful to exercise. I saw on Facebook, on my Facebook feed a couple days ago, a woman in her 60s had a stroke and lost movement of her left arm and her left leg. And this is like the mom of somebody my age, and it's really, really, really sad. And now she's in the memory, a memory care unit that both of us are familiar with. And that's stressful. And so when I hear people use the it's too stressful, it takes too much time, excuses, I always future pace and I think, well, let's zoom out for a second. What's more stressful? Is it more stressful to change your diet and your exercise and your stress and your sleep habits now? Is it more stressful to invest up front? Or is it more stressful to pay for it on the back end? Like there's no more investing on the back end.
Right.
Like you're just paying for it. And it's very unfortunate where we do hear of that a lot. Like you can get away with a lot, I think, of unhealthy habits like when you're younger, but as you age, it becomes more and more and more important to get that health dialed in so that you can prevent those issues as much as possible. And I always think, like, what is that person missing now? Like they're missing birthday parties, they're missing holidays, they're missing opportunities to communicate with their family, they're missing opportunities to impact. And I think that God places all of us here to impact other lives, to love their lives. And I think in order to show up for other people in our lives at our highest capacity, we have to have great health. We have to have great emotional, physical, spiritual, mental health.
It's interesting because while you were saying that, it made me think, if your first thought with, embracing a weight loss journey or joining Zivli is, oh, I'm so stressed, this is going to be so stressful. Part of me thinks that that's like ding, 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 ding. That's your sign that you need this even more, right? If life is so stressful, that's your sign that something needs to change.
Yeah. It's almost like going back to that root cause symptom conversation that we were having earlier. Like if you feel like you don't have time, if you feel like you're too stressed, that is a red flag symptom that you need this now more than ever because you need to make a change.
Yep.
And we teach you how to do that. And on the stressful thing and the time issue, I think a lot of people feel like they don't have time, but what they actually don't have are activity management skills and energy, because we all have the same 24 hours in a day. Like sun goes up, sun goes down. That's it. So how are some people more productive than others? Well, they manage their resources better and they manage their activities. So they create boundaries around what they do and they stick to those boundaries. And it's interesting, we already talked about values. because the activities that they do in a day are driven from the values. Because if you're living a life without values, you're going to feel burnt out. You're going to feel maybe not without values, but that's not in line with your values. So if you're feeling burnt out, if you're feeling tired, if you're feeling stressed all the time, that could be a sign that you're living out of integrity with your innate values. And so I think if people get anything from this conversation, please do a little value audit on your life and see, what are my core values? And am I living that out? Like, is my rhythm of life congruent with my values? And if not, how can I improve that? I think that's so powerful. It's such a powerful exercise for people to go through. But when they're saying like, I don't have the time, it's like, well, that's an activity issue, which is probably a values issue and a boundaries issue. But then the other side of that is the energy to do things. Like Carol was her name. She had fibromyalgia. I don't know if you listened to that episode. It was full fun. And the fibro was just like debilitating for her. And she said after she did our program, changed her diet, she had no fibromyalgia pain. She had energy to do yard work for hours without the bed rest that she has used to have. And so it may not be a time problem so much as an energy problem. And if you invest in getting healthy, guess what? You have more energy to get things done, to be more productive. And, if you follow the systems that we outlined from a mindset perspective, the things that you're doing should be things that light you up. And I don't know, I could talk about time management all day. Like I'm sure you could too. We're both very busy young moms, but we still have the chance and the opportunity to live a values-led life.
I love that. I like the concept of a values audit because I think that completely should kind of guide your time, your energy, your resources, what, your purpose, how you live day to day. And otherwise, you're just living day to day. You're going through the motions. You're letting the life happen to you versus putting yourself in the driver's seat.
Versus like being that intentional for your life.
Right.
So this was a great conversation. I hope that people today who are considering joining Zivli, who maybe have been in the background of their mind thinking like, I want to join, but I don't have time, or it's not the right time, or it's going to be stressful. Like I just want to be upfront. And like, those are limiting thoughts. We help you work through those. Those are symptoms, right? Like we were talking about. And please take the time to do a values audit. And the way that I would suggest doing this is download, if you Google like Brene Brown values list, Brene Brown is an author and she's done a lot of work on empathy and values and stuff like that. And she has a list of values and you can go through those and you can like circle the top, 5 that are most important to you. And then I would ask you to go back and see if health was one of your values. Because if you want to get healthy, but health is not a core value, that's not going to work. Health has to be a value in your life in order for you to get and stay healthy. So what does that mean? Like, how do you really know what your values are? First off, listen to your heart. Second of all, like look where you spend your most intention or your most time, attention, and money. That's going to be like where your values really fall, is where you place most of your intention and resources. And health may not be on that list for you yet. And this is a great opportunity to say, man, no wonder I'm not prioritizing my health. It hasn't been a value of mine, but I can choose to make that a value of mine now and moving forward every day.
I've also heard too, if you're struggling to figure out what do I value, to think back to, your last 3 to 5 really favorite moments of life, things that have happened that have just been your favorite memories. Where were you? What were you doing? What did you feel? How did you feel? And that can help guide you to some of those values as well.
I love that. And like when you say that, I think adventure is a value, maybe of mine, maybe not a shared family value.
Sure.
But that's such a powerful exercise. And All of my favorite memories are either with family or doing something active outside.
Yep.
Yes. So I hope people take the chance to do a values-based exercise. Identify your top probably like 5, 3 to 5 values I think is helpful. Talk about them with your partner or your spouse. Maybe see what their values are. See if you have any shared values. See if you have like a family set of values. It's a very rich and rewarding conversation if your partner is like ours and will at least put up with it. Justin didn't give me a lot of heck about it today, but he was more participatory today than in previous values. But I do think it's helpful, and I think that it's important to do that so that you're living a life of intention and being that intentional creator that I think we're meant to be. All right. So we'll wrap this one up, and we're going to do a part 2. The next one that we're going to talk about, we'll start it off with, is feeling overwhelmed, because that is such a common emotion when people are thinking about joining a program, especially right after they join the program. They might have that feeling of overwhelm. I think we do a nice job addressing that in our new member welcome call, but I think for people who are experiencing overwhelm at just making a decision, we wanted to walk you through that. So we will talk with you about that next week.